Welcome back to the Painting Coach, and in this video we're going to be doing something a little different. We're painting three models. They're going to be Ranger Captains from the Lord of the Rings range, which are a slightly smaller scale than what we're used to. Don't forget, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing, and if you do, hit that bell to be notified of all my latest videos. Alright, so Lord of the Rings is an interesting change of pace, much smaller models, I guess, in terms of scale. So what we're going to do, I'm going to paint all three of these Ranger models. Now, I'm just going to focus on the Faramir model, though, which is this chap here. So what I've done is I've primed them with black, and then I've just given them a little bit of grey over the top. And the reason I've done that is just to make it a little bit easier when it comes to painting some of those brighter colours. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to paint all the greens on. I'm going to start with a fairly dark green. So this is Caliban Green, and you can see it's fairly bright. You may need two coats over some of those brighter areas there. And there's some lovely box art on the Games Workshop website as well, which I'll be following. So if you're not sure where the green goes, just pop it all on, and I'll be doing the green on all of them to start off with. So get that Caliban Green down, and then we'll come back. We'll do things a little differently as well with the shading. I'm going to get all the base colours down before I shade, rather than kind of split this into individual sections, because it'll just be a bit easier and a bit quicker that way. Once you've got a nice decent coat of that Caliban Green down, we want to start the brown leather. Now there's two leathers. There's a reddy brown leather and a kind of a darker brown leather. So for the reddy brown leather, we want to base this with Rhinox Hide. So on Faramir's chest, for example, don't worry too much about going over the Tree of Gondor kind of iconography that's on there, because once the paint dries, it'll show back through as long as you put it on thin enough. Just be careful when you go over those areas that you've already painted with Caliban Green. So again, follow the box art as far as you can. Make sure you've got a nice even coverage on there, and then we'll come back and we'll do the darker brown base coat next. For the wood of the bows and the darker leather, we're going to use Dryad Bark. So just work that on, nice and easy. And on the palette, it's not too dissimilar from the Rhinox Hide, but when we add the highlights, you'll start to see those differences coming out, and they'll really start to pop out a little bit as well. So just work your way around the models again, check in against the box art to make sure you're in the right kind of place and you're going along the right lines to get these different colours, because again it's going to be very woody feel, very brown green, and they're supposed to be camouflaged as well, so the highlights will make them pop a little bit, but it's really the work that we're doing in terms of the base colours that'll kind of hopefully draw them all together. So just work your way around, get all those kind of bits of straps done, all the bits of belts, etc. And then we'll come back and just do the silver metallics, and then we'll wash everything, and then we'll get on to highlights. For the silver base coat, we're going to use my enhanced steel, and this is a real straightforward one where we're just going to paint everything that's going to be silver with a nice easy base coat. Now I'm not going to put any gold on these models, so if you look at some of the box art, you'll see that there's a little bit of gold on some decoration. Now feel free to do that if you want, but for me, I'm just going to keep all the silver. I'm not going to add any gold on there because I don't think that's conducive to kind of being a ranger, having kind of gold bling showing up. So work your way around, get all the bits that the box art shows you are going to be silver. Don't forget all the little kind of buckles and things like that as well, which just kind of add to how everything looks. And then we'll come back and we're ready to put that first wash on. With all that done, it's now time to shade the model. So I'm going to use some Nuln Oil for this. But what's really important is I'm not going to slap it on and let it pool anywhere. And areas that I've not painted yet, so for example the face and the hair, I'm going to try and keep it off there, as well as those areas that, so on Faramir for example, he's got a lighter kind of undercoat on, so I don't want to paint that because I want to make sure that I can get a good base coat with a lighter green. So I'm painting this over everything I've painted already. And one really important thing is when it comes to things like the cloak, I'm going to paint up, but bear in mind, when I turn this model to stand up to dry, all that kind of Nuln Oil is going to run down. So I want to make sure that I've not got too much on there. So just work your way around, get it on all the brown and the green, and then we'll come back, make sure it's properly dry, and we'll do the first sort of set of highlights. So just swap into one of the other models for a minute, because Faramir doesn't have too much black on him, so I just want to kind of show it on here. So we're just going to take some Abaddon Black, and this is just going to be for then all that kind of black clothing. And I've got this quite thin, so it may need like another coat once it's dry, but you can basically play that by eye when it's on there. So just get that black done. You've got the shoes to do as well, and then we'll come back, and then we'll do the kind of the really reddy leather on these bracers. For these kind of really reddy coloured van braces, just using some Vorbak Red, and because it's going over white or grey, you may need a couple of coats just to make sure it covers effectively, but it should be okay. So just work that on there, and then give it a wash with some Nuln Oil, just a little bit. I won't show that on cam, and then that's kind of most of those bases done, so we can come back and we'll start highlighting next. Once everything is dry, let's go back in and start highlighting up. So the first thing we want to do is start to bring the green back up. So go back to your Caliban Green, just catch those kind of top edges, leaving the sort of the darker colour in the recesses. And the reason we're doing this is because we're going to use some kind of lighter foresty type greens. We just want to make sure that we're the transitions are not too sharp or too stark. With the leather we can afford to do it because we've always got the option of toning it down a little bit afterwards if we want to, and we'll do that depending on how kind of effective our highlighting is on there. So just work your way around, leaving those darker colours in the recesses, bring in some of that Caliban Green in just to bring the green back to life, and then we'll move on to the highlights proper next. It's time to introduce some earthy tones into the green now. So the first highlight is going to be Loren Forest, and what we're looking for is just kind of catching these edges, and you can see it's quite a brighter green than the kind of colour underneath, but as it dries it'll blend back in to the Caliban Green underneath, and just sets us up nicely for continuing to highlight the green. So on the back of the cloak you can use the edge of your brush like this just to kind of catch those areas. And again, don't put too much on your brush, just take your time and work it in, because we're going to go lighter still in the next stage. So just work your way around all the green, get that in, and then we'll come back and we'll give it one final highlight just to help accentuate the cloaks and any other green clothing. The last little bit of green highlight, we're going to use some Straken Green. Now again, you don't want too much on your brush for this, and we're just going to look to catch some of the edges on the cloth, as well as painting inside the most kind of pronounced edges, pronounced highlights. So it's a lot thinner, and if you need to move the model around, then move it around just to get the brush on there. And the same for the back of the cloak again, where you've got these nice hard edges, we can just sweep up with the brush, making sure that we're just catching that top edge and not going over the rest of the green too much. Nice and simple. So work your way around all the green cloth, getting that done, and we'll come back to work on the leather next. So for the more reddy brown leather, the colour we want is Doombull Brown. And we're looking to just catch then, again, we're looking at edges, we're looking at kind of where the kind of natural lines lie on the tunic, and all the other areas are going to kind of have this reddy leather. So you see, I'm trying to stay away from the tree imprint on this one, because we'll sort of come back to that and do that last. But certainly things like the boots could do with a good healthy dose of Doombull there. Just work your way around all the models then, getting that ready leather done, and we'll come back and we'll add one more highlight to it. Next up is some Scrag Brown, and we're just looking for the sharpest edges with the Scrag Brown. So basically we're painting it inside that line of Doombull Brown we did last off. So again, just work your way all the way around the model, just catching those bits inside, get a nice fine highlight, and we'll come back and do the other brown next. For the darker leather, the highlight colour we're going to use is Gorthor Brown. So again, we're just looking to kind of work along edges as best we can. Now on the clothing, it's kind of like a little crosshatch design going on, so just use the tip of your brush to pop some lines in the one way, and then use the tip of your brush to just pop them in the other way like that. That looks pretty good. So work your way around all the dark leather on the models with the Gorthor Brown, and then we'll just touch up that red leather next. Where we've used the red leather, we just want to take a little bit of Khorne Red and just work it down the edges there, just to highlight it nice and quietly. And that will give you a nice pop to that red leather, to all the straps as well. We'll come back, we'll do the black next. For any black we've got, I just want to use a little bit of Mechanicus Standard Grey. And essentially we're kind of looking to do exactly the same thing that we've done over the rest of the model. Catching leading edges and looking for folds on the bodysuit. Should be fairly straightforward. So just work your way around all the black. Don't forget the shoes. You're just looking to highlight those creases. And if it's too bright for your taste, you can just pop a little bit of Nuln Oil over it just to take the edge off and take it back down to that darker colour. We haven't got a huge amount to do on all three wardens now, so we're coming towards the end. Obviously the face and the hair are going to be what we finish on. Just want to highlight some of the metal with some chrome from Vallejo Model Air, and generally I just want to use the tip of the brush and just pull it along to follow the kind of the shape, just to make the swords look like they've got a bit of a sharp edge on them. So do this for all the models, and then we'll come back, and I think we'll do the Tree of Gondor on Faramir next, and his kind of undercloth suit there, and then we'll go to work on the faces, and then, like I said, we're pretty much there. For Faramir's undersuit, we're just going to take the lightest of the greens we used, which was that Straken Green, and we're just going to layer over it. Now it may take a couple of layers, particularly if we've been a little untidy with some of our other colours that we've used, like our Nuln Oil. Just take your time, work it in there, and then we'll come back and we'll give it a little highlight next. And then just to highlight it, if you want to, you don't have to, we're just going to take some Nurgling Green just to catch those kind of most pronounced parts. The bit of sleeve sticking out from the glove just gives it a little bit of a light there. So that's it, and we'll come back and we'll do the tree next. So for the tree, going to take some Corax White. Make sure you've got a good point on your brush. We're just going to follow the design on the garment, just like that. Nice and straightforward. So don't worry about painting the bits in the recesses, we're just looking for those raised bits. So you see my paint's getting a bit watery there, so I'm going to let that dry and just go back in and do a little bit more next. Let's really start to bring these chaps to life now then. So let's take some Kislev Flesh and let's base all of the fleshy areas across all of the models. Might take a couple of coats and then we'll come back and we'll shade it next. Once the Kislev Flesh is dry, we're just going to shade it all with some Rhinox Flesh shade. Now, we don't want to swamp the model, but we do want to get in all those kind of recesses. What we don't want to do is kind of have big dark patches like I've got there. So if you do get those, just clean your brush off and then move it back in to take them out, nice and easy. While we wait for that Rhinox Flesh shade to dry, we can just take some Apothecary White contrast paint and pop this over the feathers on the arrows, just to give a little bit of shade in. We can highlight it back up with some of that Corax White later if you want to. When that Rhinox shade is totally dry, let's go back to some Kislev Flesh, and you just want to use this to pick out the more kind of prominent areas. Obviously there's a beard going to be going in there as well, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. Let that dry and we'll come back for another highlight now. Just want a little Flayed One Flesh then to just really bring out those sharpest features, like the nose, the brow, and then just under the kind of the eye there, where the cheekbone is. There we are, let that dry, and then I'll come back and we'll do the hair and the beard next. So for Faramir's hair, I'm going to use the same colours as the kind of dark wood. So just going to start off with some Dryad Bark, being careful obviously when we come to areas that we've already finished and around the face. And don't forget he's got a beard as well, so we'll sketch that in. Just quietly. If you're not sure where the beard goes, just check the box art. And there we are. Get that all blocked in and we'll come back and I'll show you how to highlight it next. To highlight the hair and the beard, just take some Gorthor Brown. And for the beard, what we're looking to do is just have like pulled down through where we've put that. And for the hair, we're just looking to catch some of these raised areas. So just work your brush in. Not too much paint because it'll kind of flood, but where we have got these bunches and the kind of use the sculpt to your advantage. So work your way around, get that done, and then we'll just come back and put a little extra colour into it to give him that kind of more kind of blondie brown. So to do that, all we're doing is just taking a little bit of Kislev Flesh, not too much on the brush, just hitting those most prominent areas, just to give the impression of some lighter strands of the hair. There we are, like that. So that's Faramir finished. Obviously base him to match the rest of your army. I'll probably pop the eyes in off cam because I really struggle to do them on cam. And then what I'll show you how to do is just the grey hair on the other ranger, and we're done. So for the grey hair, we're just going to base this with Dawnstone. Again, just be careful you don't go over anything you've already finished. So work your way and get that done, and we'll come and highlight it next. And once you've got that Dawnstone down and you're happy with it, just take some Administratum Grey and use it to catch those raised hairs. Now you might be wondering why I haven't shaded it. You can if you want, but at this scale it's going to make some really stark colours. There'll be some really stark jumps, which I don't really want on this model. I just want you to be able to see that they've got grey hair from fairly close up, and I don't want that to be too stark an effect. So there we are, just like that. We've got that grey hair done, nice and textured. You do all the eyes, you do some beards, whatever you need to do, but that's all your wardens done. So there we have it. These rangers are done, they're ready for the table. They just need a little bit of basing. I really hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please leave a like and a comment down below. And I hope you've seen how easy it is to batch paint 3 models really quickly when the colours are similar. And I've tried to show you the differences as we've gone through the video. If you want to support the channel, then you can do through my Patreon, where you get exclusive access to me, monthly frequently asked questions, as well as exclusive content and giveaways. You can use the link for Goblin Gaming in the description to get up to 20% off all your wargaming needs, or you can see my list of recommended equipment. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.